Welcome to another installment of Solkana's exercise library. We've got walking deads or walking deadlift. So you can do this with a single or a double weight. The idea is that we're taking a step forward, we're hinging, and we can either keep our back neutral and then driving up to bring that back foot in line with the other, or we can think about hinging, allowing ourselves to round, but then we're re-straightening our back to neutral and then driving up and stepping forward. So we don't necessarily want to move very far with this. It can be kind of a big step, thinking about hinge, option to round, but then reclaiming neutral and driving all the way up to stand. So you can imagine a full length of that taking kind of a while. Tricep smash. We've got a couple different options for a tricep smash. We could use a barbell on the rig, and we're going to be rolling side to side over that barbell. The end where the plates go on is going to be a little wider. We can also do some movement at the elbow, so a little bit wider at the base. If you're on the handle part, it's going to be more focused. We could also be hitting this on like the handle of a kettlebell. So similar thing here, going across the fibers and then doing some movement of the elbow to work in on the tricep through some different movement. Ooh, loosen up that tricep. TRX style squat. So the main thing with our TRX style squats is that we're using the TRX, or we're using the ring like a TRX. So we don't have that many rings. So these are going to be done with one ring. And I have this lengthened quite a ways, but I'm still leaving probably 3 or 4 inches of strap so that I make sure it's not going to come out while someone's working on it. So the first variation here is a squat with a narrow stance, and I'm thinking about focusing in on the quads here. So I'm really having my feet pretty close together. My arms stay straight here, and then at the top I'm going to raise my toes back. So a squat with a narrow stance, keeping everything pretty neutral, so not allowing myself to round, but really pulling back on the rings to keep my spine really neutral, pressing back, raising my toes. So just a little change in where my feet are makes this feel very different. So bring my feet a little closer to the anchor. Feels a little bit like I'm hanging back a little bit. If I go too far back, then as I try to squat, I'm like falling forward. So I don't want that. So I want my feet just forward enough to allow me to really squat with a neutral spine. And you can have people set up in their squat and see how that feels. But it's going to allow people to get to a really deep knee bend here. Adding that toe raise at the top is going to help with this like dorsiflexion activation here. So that's our TRX narrow stance squat with a toe raise. Another variation here is we could do a TRX squat with a row. So I'm starting with the ring rowed to my armpit, and I'm going to lengthen, squat single arm. So I'm wanting to open up, but I'm going to try to avoid that, coming all the way up for a row. You can go more straight up and down, which is going to take a little of the pressure off the row, versus rowing all the way back with a single arm and then squatting. That's going to be much harder with that row. Switching arms, much harder to do that single arm row plus the squat, versus if I go down for my squat and then come up, that's going to be a lot less pressure on my hands for that row. A really hard variation of a TRX style squat is going to be an overhead hold. So I'm just stepping forward just enough to get a little bit of pressure on the rings. And then as I squat down, I'm continuing to pull on that ring. Ooh, so this is a huge upper back shoulder mobility exercise. So really thinking about continuing to have pressure on the overhead position of that ring as I go down and up. I can imagine sort of like bending the elbows, but we're really trying to pull back on that ring through this entire squat. Pretty challenging. So a little bit further back is going to make it a little bit easier, but I can't get as deep. But I can still, just a little bit further back is going to help me keep pressure on the ring through the entire range of motion. windshield wipers. We could do this on a bench as well. If we were on a bench, we'd hold onto the bench with the knees bent. I'm thinking about just going a little bit off center and back up, a little bit off center. So if I was on a bench, I couldn't go the full range of motion necessarily, or I'd just fall right off the bench. On the floor, I can think about taking my arms out to a T and taking my knees off center and then squeezing back. Taking my knees off center, squeezing back. With legs extended, it's just going to add a lot more leverage to my low back. For a windshield wiper, hollow body banded overhead lat pull or hollow pullover. So I'm thinking about doing my pullover here. I can add the hollow by just bracing here and driving my low back into the bench or into the floor and pulling over. If I want to increase the difficulty, I can take one leg out to that hollow hold. If I want even more, I'm taking both legs out to my hollow hold for that banded pullover. But again, we can do that with both feet on the floor and just a lot of core activation. Seated leg lift over object. So I've got a kettlebell here. I could also lay that down. I'm just thinking about being really nice and upright. Not rounded here, but as upright as I can be, and I can even raise here. I'm lifting a leg up and over. I can do this in more of a straddle. So I'm lifting up and over, lifting up and over. If I had the kettlebell handle up, it would be harder to lift up and over. Feet could also be closer together for an up and over. But mostly I'm challenged in sitting upright and keeping my back neutral as opposed to collapsing here. So additionally, keeping your hands touching the ground to make that a little bit more reasonable, lean back will be another option. And that's it for this installment of Exercise Library.